Let's talk about why lash training is actually a scam. Now, I know you guys are probably like, oh my God, like, what are you talking about? Who ruined your lash career? Well, I'm about to tell you who ruined my lash career, because I promise you, I would have been a lot further if it wasn't for this. What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Ariel, and I am the co-founder of Flourish Lashes. Today's video is going to be an in-depth video on lash training. Let me break it down for you guys and give you some of my personal experience. So first, let's talk about a little bit about what lash training actually is. Now, most of us who have been lash trained have gone through a terrible experience, and I will get there and I will get to why that happens. But let's break down what lash training is. Now, lash training is usually a quick, maybe 2 to 3 day certification. It is a certificate of completion. That's usually what you get, whether or not you go to someone virtual or you go to someone in person. It's usually a certificate of completion. Now, something to note is that each state or each country is going to have different regulations. Sometimes you need a license for lashing specifically. Sometimes you need an esthetician's license. Now, what we're talking about here is none of that. We're talking about lash training, a certificate of completion in eyelash extensions. So that is usually, like I said, a 1 to 2 day class that really goes through theory and generally practical. Now, this can be a one-on-one private training, or it could be a group training. Now, let's talk a little bit about what you usually get with that training. Okay, so normally in a training, you get maybe a manual, you get a trainer, of course, and then you get a kit. Now, the kit is where things get a bit tricky. Now, this is what happens, especially when we're talking about bad lash training. You usually get enticed by the material things. So sometimes, actually, let's talk about me, because this happened to me. I had a student come to me and I had given her a set price. What's included in my training is a 2-day practical, theory and practical. And then you get a manual, a full extensive manual, and then you get a full kit. Now, the kit includes all the products you need to actually start lashing right away. What I've seen happen is people tend to promise more than that to entice people to come into them. Now, usually what happens is the price point goes down a little bit, but then they also incorporate a lash bed or a ring light, usually a higher ticket item. Now, on a student's perspective, if I am going to go get lash trained, I'm probably looking for something that's going to give me the best bang for my buck. Short, to the point, I get all the products, I'm good to go. Now, this is exactly where things go left. I have never seen a training that offered those particular items and the price point being that low, and someone actually coming out a lash student or a lash artist, because there is a reason why the value in those trainings are technically more materialistic than they are about the education itself. And this is what baffles me on a daily basis. Okay, one thing I can tell you guys about being a lash educator is that this is not meant for everybody. And the problem is that people are driven by the wrong thing. Most lash educators, most lash training programs out there are driven by monetary value. And yes, I get it. At the end of the day, we're all out here to make some money, but the value in which you value something that you do is going to show at the end of it. And realistically, when you see these lash trainers just throwing out programs and, creating manuals that literally have the bare minimum in them and don't genuinely care about you succeeding as a lash artist, that is where you end up failing and you end up suffering, because you are picking the cheaper option. And I get it, like, we want to save money, but at the end of the day, picking the cheaper option, you need to understand why it's cheaper and what that person's intention is. Now, personally, myself, I value the information that I have. And I know that when I have a student, that student's going to succeed, and I'm going to make sure of it because I genuinely want my students to succeed. I have no success without my students. So when I created a training program, I created it where I went back and forth. I figured out what works and how it flows. I rearranged my program so many times just to make it flow that much easier. And I think people really underestimate that aspect of a training. And it's something that we don't talk about. We don't talk about how the program's laid out. We don't talk about how the information is being received. Are you picking up cues from the student you're teaching to make sure that they're actually understanding what you're saying? Or are you just going bam, 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 info, weight, length, curl, diameter, this is what you do. You put it on here, you put it on there. And that's usually what a lash training is. And for me personally, my lash training was like that. And I sucked. And I ended up having to take a whole year off because I just couldn't do it. I couldn't understand what I was doing wrong. I had no guidance, I had no help, and it really showed in my first year of lashing because I was not a lash artist and I wouldn't have called myself a lash artist. Now, today, in this day and age, I know that if I had training that was available, like my own training, I would have been a lash artist much sooner. I would have been successful much sooner. I would have had more clientele sooner. It just would have went better for me. Now, guaranteed, I'm not upset at the way my journey went. I love where I ended up. I love that because I went through that, I'm now able to help so many lash artists because I know exactly what people need to understand to become a successful lash artist. So no regrets there. Now, another thing that people do a lot, which I think is so wrong, is that we overestimate the value of YouTube. Now, YouTube is fantastic and YouTube gives you so much free information, but we tend to substitute the free information for certified. And we can't do that because, again, I'm going back to the flow of lash training. The flow of lash training, in whether it's in person, whether it's virtual, even if it's what's it called? What's the word I'm looking for? Pre-recorded course. It is okay because you can get the value out of that because it's all about the flow. It's how you teach. You can't be biased. You have to be an unbiased lash educator. I am an unbiased lash educator. Just because I don't like something doesn't mean I don't teach it to you. You need to be the one to take the information and roll with it and figure out what works for you. And that's the success that I've seen in my students. So when you're looking at lash trainers, you need to figure out what their motive is. And you can tell very easily by their price point, and you can tell by what they're giving you. I will never include a ring light or a lash bed in my training because that's not where the value lies. The value lies in the actual information that I'm giving you. The value lies in that one-on-one that I give to my students. That is where the value lies. Let's just say you're paying $2,000 for a training. The problem is that we're looking at that $2,000 as a massive investment. But if you really break it down, you can make that $2,000 back in like 2 weeks. You just have to put yourself in the right training. You're in a worse position by paying someone $1,000 or $800 and not actually getting good training because you know what? You're out that $800 and you're probably not going to get it back because you don't know how to. But if you invest and you put yourself in a good training, even if it's 2, 3, I don't even care what it is. If you invest into a good training, I guarantee you, you will get that money back and so much more. Okay, so do you want to actually become a high quality lash trainer? It's not about just being a lash educator or being a lash trainer. You need to become a high quality lash trainer because that's going to give you longevity. It's going to give you successful students because without successful students, you are doing nothing. And at that point, you're just scamming people for their money. And that is not the way to go about this. So high quality lash educator should be the goal. If you want to be a high quality lash educator, you should email me right now and I can give you all the information you need to get to that goal. Now, if you guys have any questions for me, leave it in the comments or email me. It will be in the description. But if you guys like this one, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll be back with something new next time. Bye.